Hey gang, old internet gang. What's in the pouch today, Tim? You ask yourselves. You know what it is. Ooh, look at you. Look at you, will you? We got the Portal by Random Fabrications. What can we say about this bad boy? So the first thing we can say is I got this on the secondary, like a lot of things, but I actually didn't save money, spent a little bit extra money, not too much extra, mainly just to pay for essentially kind of the extra shipping going around with these. But these are not sold all that often, so they're kind of hard to find, and they don't pop up on the secondary market all that much. So it retails for $115 when you can find it. But again, a lot of times you're going to be finding it on the secondary market. So it comes in a couple different finishes, a couple different materials. Old Emerson Hodges over at Random Fabrications does a kind of a lot of different things. He's fulfilling an Indiegogo for a tri version of this, as well as my tri tungsten version of this should be arriving on Saturday. So we're super excited for that. So, but yeah, I wanted to kind of talk about this guy, and a couple of things I probably should open with here real quick. I was having some issues with the bearings that was in it. Now again, I got it on the secondary. I'm not too worried. If you saw me my video yesterday, assuming I upload these in the manner that they should be uploaded. If you saw my video yesterday, I was talking about having to switch out the bearing because it did have some grindingness into it, and I couldn't get a spin time above 3 minutes, and it just didn't feel all that smooth. It didn't feel super terrible, but I couldn't get it cleaned. So I was cleaning it out, as you do, and I did what I told you guys to be careful not to do, and I dropped this in the sink. So if you look, especially on this corner right here, that makes me sad. There's a couple of just little spots on just some of these edges, which takes away from a little bit about what I'm going to talk about here. But let's get in here a little bit and let's talk about this guy. So I'm calling this guy Masterfully machined. Like, it's like a perfect type machining scenario on this thing. So you've got these cool different milling marks, machining marks going from side to side. So they have like this different pattern, but this feels completely smooth. It almost feels like a mirror finish. It's so smooth. Like, if we get this at an angle, you might be able to see some of the reflections. See how my reflection just kind of goes right across all those lines. There's no real break in it, yet you get these really cool swirl patterns. All these edges are really sharp in the sense of like they're machined to a very acute sharp angle, no rounding, no anything, yet they're soft. You know, it doesn't suffer from what you saw on the Trithrax, for example. So all these edges, again, just machined, feels perfectly smooth. I haven't seen a piece this well machined ever. Probably the one that comes the closest that I know is 100% machined is the Focus, the V2 Focus in brass. That is 100% machined, no hand finishing. I don't believe there's any hand finishing on this, but don't quote me on it. So it does use a glued hybrid ceramic bearing. I'm not going to take the buttons off because one of the issues I have with this, and I don't know if it's with all the Random Fabrications Portal buttons, but the tolerances are super tight, so they actually fit really tight in there. Again, if you saw my video yesterday, you would have seen that I had some issues trying to put the buttons in, so they're really tight to get in there. That said, other than that, these are some amazing world-class buttons. These are some of the best buttons in the game, you know. So they've got these great steps. Everything's soft. Lots of grip. They're big. They're 21 millimeters. They're just really nice buttons. So these are like game-changing buttons. I think if he hasn't, maybe selling buttons on his site at some point, so something to keep an eye out for. But most of their stuff, this is one of the sites where most of that stuff is sold out, limited drops. I haven't been around seeing like a real drop, so I don't know how crazy they are, how much of a heads up you get, how much is in stock, all that sort of stuff. So but let's get into this guy here for a minute. So it spins like a dream. It's almost perfectly balanced. It's pretty well balanced. So see that we're just off just a tiny bit there. Very subtle amount if you've seen me do this. So what that means is when you spin it, we get no wobble. Sorry, judder. We should call it what it is, no judder. So I've had this thing about a week. I've been trying to fit the review of this into my review schedule, and I just had some issues with the bearing that kept getting it pushed off. So I think we're going to call this a review as opposed to a first look. But you can see how the pattern kind of alternates as these as it warps there. Let's slow it down just a little. See that warp again? Slow it down. Just looks good. It just feels so good. It's so well machined, and for $115 for something this well machined, like again, I haven't seen a machine finish as well as this out there, which is all the more reason why it stings that I've got those couple little nicks from dropping it in the sink, because you can't really fix that on something machine finished without remachining it, right? I can sand that down a little bit to take off any burrs that might be there, but anyway, we won't dwell on that. So we will talk about spin time for a minute. So I did throw a hybrid ceramic stealth bearing in there. I kind of like the feel of hybrid ceramics these days, so I'm really waiting to check out those hybrid ceramics from Heck Ferula, because he's got some great bearings over there. Tried some of those high velocity Fidget HQ ones, also really nice. We'll get into that hopefully very soon. I know I keep saying that and I keep having to push it off, but hopefully I kind of want it to be thorough with what's currently out there, so we might just have to do it and bite the bullet and miss out and just update as it goes. In any event, we're getting, when I first put the bearing in there, I was getting just over 5 minutes, 5.5 minutes, and I've been doing a couple more spin tests today, and I'm actually averaging closer to 6 minutes in one table spin. I did have at about 7 minutes and 15 seconds. Now with the Stealth Hybrid Ceramics, that cage isn't the same on both sides. So when you flip the bearing on one side, you can kind of see that metal ring, and on the other side, you see more of the balls. I've found in most testing with bearings of that type, when that cage is up, I get longer spin times. So I got 7 minutes and 15 seconds on one of those spins on a table spin. So pretty good. And got on my best vertical spin 7:45. I expect the vertical spin to do a little bit better than that, usually just because vertical spins often get more spin time by about, on that sort of table spin time, about 2 minutes. I would expect closer to 8.5, maybe almost 9 minutes on a vertical spin based on what I'm getting on a table spin. But either way, I mean, those are phenomenal spin times. I forgot to weigh this guy, but I can tell you it probably feels like it's in the neighborhood of about 70 to 75 grams would probably be my guess, maybe 65, but it's in that super fidgetable sweet spot. So this thing fidgets like a dream for a bar. So these corners here can be a bit of a hot spot if you're doing some hard fidgeting. They're pretty sharp, but like I said, they feel pretty smooth. But I find with like a lot of all-day fidgeting, they can be a bit of an issue. But I would not change that because I like the way this looks. So I'm willing to put up with a little bit of function to have that form. Like just the way this is machined, I wouldn't change that. So I'm willing to understand and accept that as a little bit of an issue, a little bit of a drawback. So, but preloaded flicks are good. Pushing it out, it pushes really well. You know, you've got that. You know, it kind of gets wider as it tapers out, so you put more mass out here. It gives you something to flick off of, but it's still super smooth. I can't describe how smooth this is. It feels like polish, which is, and if you guys know me, I like the feeling of that polish. So I don't fidget like this too much because of how smooth it is. If you miss an arm, to kind of keep spinning it, unless you're alternating the angles, can be a little bit tough, but again, I'm not a huge fidgeter like this. Pretty good button clearance as well, so the buttons fit pretty snug into the body, but you can still get pretty good flat grips, pretty good pinch grips without really rubbing. So rubbing isn't too much of an issue. Speaking of rubbing, let me see if I can get this sound to record here. If you slow down the spinner at sort of the right speeds, not too fast, not too slow, along these tops here with like the pad or meat of your finger. Hear that? That almost sounds like a turbo. I don't know, that's just really satisfying, those machine marks. I think that's what it is, because I don't get that effect on any other spinner. I really dig that. So it's kind of just a fun little like audible feedback, and that kind of led me to the thought that that might be cool to do certain patterns for spinners to actually make noisy spinners intentionally, or to make certain kind of audible feedback. That could be really satisfying for some people. Let's hear that one more time. Didn't really hear it there. The other thing, look at how these facets are machined so well and how they reflect light. It does some really cool dancing with the light when you spin it at slow speeds. So watch this. Look at the way that light reflects around there. It just is really cool to watch. Isn't it? Isn't it cool to watch? I can't be the only one that thinks that's cool to watch. Yum yum. Chocolate chip honey dip. Anyway. Isn't that cool? Dig it. Love it. So yeah, this guy's cool to look at. It's cool to fidget with. Maybe not the most comfortable all-day fidgeter if you do a lot of really hard preloaded flicks. Again, this corner could be a bit of a hot spot, but again, there's surprisingly soft and smooth machined edges. So whatever you're doing over there, Emerson, keep it up. Completely dig it on board. Which leads me to my last point. I did save it to last because I don't like to cause drama or anything like that, but for whatever reason, I feel like it's worth me addressing because I've got a soapbox I can stand on. But from time to time, I hear negative comments about Emerson, and I've never PM'd him really, or chatted with him, or have any sort of relationship, just from what I see out there. But I feel like it's another one of those situations where it's really unwarranted. Like people say, like, oh, he's full of himself, or what have you, this, that, and the other thing. Just some BS I kind of see out there. And the only really things I can see from him, I mean, I've seen him stand up for people in the community. I've seen him be good out there supporting the community. The customer service he does is amazing. So I'll give you an example. The tungsten tri-portal that he's working on, he wasn't really getting the machine finish he really wanted. So he was offering people to have it media blasted if they wanted. But he also said, if I send you out a machined one and you don't like it and you want me to media blast it, send it back and he'll do it at no additional charge. So he's got this big, chunky, heavy, huge, with a ton of machining tungsten spinner that he's not selling for all that much. The tungsten goes for $325, which for tungsten with the size, the weight, the machining going on, good price, good customer service. The only thing I can really see that I've seen from him, but I endorse, is when people call people on bullshit. He calls people's bullshit. Like, if someone has something to say, and it really is just wrong, he calls them on it, like he stood up for Fabian when people shouted out some Fabian bullshit. He stood up for manufacturers and stuff when people claim that either maybe something's overpriced or something, saying, like, get a hold of yourselves and realize there's more into it. We're not just buying, a $2 bar of stainless steel and then selling it to you for $100. Like, there's a lot of work and effort that goes into these, and so I'm all on board with everything he's doing over there. I just kind of wanted to put that out there, maybe put in perspective if you're one of those guys that maybe thinks that or has a problem with them, take a minute to stop and think and reflect on yourself a little bit as well. So that's all. So with that, if I had 3 thumbs up, I would give him the Portal by Random Fabrications. Dig it, love it. Kisses, y'all.